Good morning. So I'm working my shift here at the Washington State Historical Museum, and I thought I'd share a little bit about what I do here. I am a gallery interpreter, so I hang out particularly here in the Ancient Ones exhibit, where we have some of our Clovis points on display. These are all casts from Lithic Casting Lab. What you have, your Wenatchee cache, some Fen cache stuff, the Rummel's Mask, the Galt site, Fairfax County, and the Vale site from Maine represented. And then behind us we have the actual East Wenatchee cache. And this is a pretty cool exhibit. It's part of the reason why I decided to come here and work as a gallery interpreter. I do this one day a week. It's really fun. I just hang out and try to get people to interact with the exhibit a little bit more, give out a little bit more detailed information about the exhibit. Aside from the East Wenatchee cache, this is also an exhibit that focuses on the Kennewick Man and the Native Americans of early Washington. So this is about 13,000 years ago to roughly, say, 7,000 or 6,000 years ago. And this is my interpretive cart. And I have all kinds of objects on it. I have some actual napped material that I did, replications of some western stem points, some cascade or northern foliate, also known as the pebble tool tradition, just some standard arrowheads, kind of like an Elko type thing. Here is a obsidian Clovis that I did, and we just have a normal obsidian biface. And this is a novaculite bipoint. I bring this in just because it's pretty. I think people like to look at it. There's a big chunk of concrete in there that I tried to nap through but couldn't get through all the way. And here we have a fine grained basalt, or some people would call this dacite. This is a little more basalty to me, but this is a conical blade core I did. And here's just an example of an obsidian blade from a obsidian conical blade core. There were a lot of blades in the Wenatchee cache. And then we also have a cobble chopper replication that I did. We have a lot of these in Washington and Oregon and places like that. And just some raw obsidian to give people an idea of what raw rock looks like. Here is one of my hammer stones. Got some battering on both ends. And then we have a lot of casts. I have a couple wind dust casts. This is from the Buell site. This was actually the point that was found under Buell Woman's head. It's beautiful. You can see it's got a really interesting twist to it. I'm not sure if that was purposeful, but it also has this odd chisel tip. I'm not sure if that was intentional or something that happened over time. And then we have some cascade type points. This is the cast of the cascade point from the Buell site as well. And then we have two other cascade, or Old Coeur d'Alene, or Olcott, whenever you choose to call it, from McCoy Creek in Monroe, Washington. This is a Clovis drill. This is not from Washington, but I thought it would be cool for people to sort of see other tools that Clovis people may have used. And of course we have the cast from the Wenatchee cache. This is I think it's Rutz, R-U-T-Z. This is the alleged largest Clovis ever found. I think this thing is pretty cool to give people an idea of the control that people can have. The beveled bone rod cast. And then this bone point is actually from Sheridan Cave in Ohio. But there are some things in the Wenatchee cache that are a little bit more degraded that I think are very similar to this. And this is a saber-toothed cat canine that I put in here for fun from when I worked at the La Brea tar pits. And then down here we have this is the Eric Callahan series. These are educational casts. This is sort of a 1 through 6 step in Eastern fluted points. but it gives, I think, gives people an idea of like the stages of manufacture for Clovis points, but also just for bifaces in general. And then here, this was originally like a larger Cascade type, or Olcott's, Old Coeur d'Alene type point that I wanted to try out as a knife. I've resharpened it several times. It's getting kind of weird looking, but I use it mainly. It's just like a utility knife. It's glued in there with some pine pitch glue, and then wrapped in sinew, and then I sewed this rawhide over that to sort of, so I didn't get, so the warmth of my hands wouldn't affect the pine pitch glue or the sinew too much if, I were sweating or whatever. And then here is a hafted polished adze that I've been using a little bit. This thing is pretty fun to use. I like it. It's a cool thing. It's an ash handle. We have a lot of ash that grows around here. And yeah, this is pretty much, what I do. There's nobody here today. The state fair is happening, so it's extremely slow. So I'm pretty much just hanging out. Thought I'd make a video. Here is one of those pieces of bone that I think is like the Sheridan Cave bone point. You can see it's degraded quite a bit more, but it's made from mastodon. And then here are some of the other bone rods. They're kind of different sizes, and there's been a lot of talk about what these may have been used for, whether they were part of a composite spear system. I've even heard some people say that they think that they're were used like rails for sleds. There's a fellow by the name of Lucas Nicholson on YouTube who's doing some pretty interesting experimental archaeology with the bone rods right now. And we also have in the museum, I'll maybe film it a bit later, there's a macaw harpoon head with smaller bone rods that are used as part of the toggling system for a harpoon for whaling. And I think I'd like to see more of them, but the angles on the grind on the bones are very similar to the Clovis bone rods. And I was kind of wondering if maybe Clovis had some sort of like a toggle head or toggle point technology they were using. But this is a really, really cool, unique site full of beautiful points. And they're just amazing. I hang out in here all the time, and I just stare at them when it's really slow, and I've drawn them, and just this stuff amazes me. Beautiful material. All of them are made from agate. But we also have some other cool stuff in here. We have some objects from Marm's rock shelter. You can see we have like just a little bit of an obsidian point there. That's actually a wood point in the middle. And then down here you have your, classic western stemmed, or some people would say wind dust, sort of basalt or andesite point. And then we have like some tule, some basket stuff. Here's a really awesome hammerstone. You can see that it's been used quite extensively, mainly on the bottom there. And there's just a little bit of wear up at the top. Right there is one of the cobble choppers I was talking about before. We've got some antler wedges and bone wedges and awls and needles. Here's some really interesting quartzite knives. They're kind of like, it's tabular quartzite, but they were used like almost like a serrated saw type knife. And then here we have the like a wind dust or western stem to the right, and then a cascade, and just some flakes and scrapers. But yeah, it's really fun to work here. I highly recommend that if anybody's in the area, that they come check it out. It's a great museum. There's a lot of other stuff too. This is the room where I spend most of my time because I love it, and this is kind of my wheelhouse. It's very difficult to make out, but if you look right there, that is a glass arrowhead. They're not sure exactly when it's from, but sometime between 1790 and 1830. But there's a lot of really cool stuff here, and I highly recommend that anybody who's in the area come check it out. But I just thought I'd share this with you guys, and I hope you're having a great day.